Hello, and in this lecture you will build your first website with Flask, if you haven't done so already. And Flask is a Python framework that has all the tools and the templates and the functions for you to build websites with Python. And before going deeper into Flask and explaining you how to use Flask properly for building Python web apps, I would like you to spend 30 minutes to build a very basic website with Flask. And that is done with only 7 lines of Python code. So that's what we'll do right now. To build a web app with Flask, you need to have Flask installed. So pip install Flask should install Flask in your Python environment. Alright, that was successfully installed. And let's create our website now. What you need is a Python file. So I'm creating one here. Let's say script1.py. And then here is where you write the code that will build your web app. And everything starts from importing Flask. And actually you don't import the Flask framework, but you import the Flask class from a Flask framework. So from Flask import Flask. And Flask is a class of this library, and this contains all the prototypes that you need to build web apps with Python. So this will handle requests for you. You don't have to set up requests yourself. But let's focus on this example for now. Once you do that, you need to create a variable where you'll store your Flask object instance, your Flask application. That will be equal to the Flask class. And you pass the name variable in there. Just don't worry about that right now. Then you need a decorator, root, and here is a URL where you'll view your website. So this slash here means the home page. And just after that you need to write the function, the Python function. And this function is what defines what your web page will do. In this case, we will return a string. Let's say this string here. Website content goes here. Just after that, you need 2 more lines of code, and that's a conditional statement. If name equals a string main app.run, debug equals true. That's it. Don't worry about this right now. Just click save, open the terminal, and execute your script with Python. Script1 Python, yeah. And it looks like your web app is running now, so open the browser. And your website should be live on your localhost. That's it. Nothing impressive, but you see how easy it is to create a website with Python. And in this case, we are just returning a string here to the website. So there's nothing fancy in there. But later on, I'll explain to you how you can return HTML pages instead of plain Python strings to your website. That will allow you to actually have different formats, different fonts on your text. And then you can also apply CSS styling to your HTML, and so you'll have a complete website with modern features. For now, let's make sure you understand these 7 lines of code. Yep, it's 7 lines. As I said, the first line, you are importing the Flask class object from the Flask library. Then in the next line, once you have imported the Flask class in here, the Flask object in other words, you are instantiating that class, that object. And this here is a special variable that will get as value the name of the Python script. Now, when you execute a Python file, a Python script, Python assigns the name main, this string, to the file. When you import a script into another script, like if we import this script from another script, this script will be assigned the script1.py name. But when you execute this script, Python assigns the name __ main __. So what happens is that in this line we say if name equals to main, then run the app. And this is true when we execute the script as we did here. But if we imported this script from another script, this line here would not be executed. So this allows us to have control over this script using this line here. Then we have these two lines. This is a decorator. Now the output that this function produces will be mapped to this URL. So if you want, you can change this URL to this, for example. Save the script. Sure, you need an URL here. Save the script, run, and go to the localhost, reload, and this time you'll get an error. Python couldn't find this page, but it can find the about page. Yeah, that's it. If you still want a home page, you would add another decorator and another function just after the decorator. So just leave this the home page and just say home page here. Save. Again, we have an error because we cannot have functions with the same name. So we can change this to about. The name doesn't matter, so this doesn't have to be the same with this one. Click save. Run the script again and go to the website. This is working. Try the home page, and this is working too. If you want to change something, let's say about content goes here, you save the script and the web app will restart by itself, so you don't have to close the web app and run the script again as I did earlier. If you get an error like I got previously, the script will stop, but if everything is alright, you will not get an error, so try this again. Home page is fine, the about page is fine too, and with the new content. So that's about it. In the next lecture you'll learn how to return an HTML template, an HTML file using your Python functions. That will give you full power to publish anything that you want in your website and not just plain strings as we did in this lecture. So see you in the next lecture.